Just share my. All right, everyone. Are you able to see my slides? Excellent. I'll put these on slideshow and give those a second to load. I'm going to give them a lot of seconds to load. So my slides are not wanting to load big. I'm gonna, if it's okay, just kind of keep them into the smaller slide size for now, just because they are not loading in the big slideshow. And I'll try that again as we go. But I'm honored to be here today to talk to you all about technology. And when I was thinking about what would be a good topic to bring in, talking about technology in the classroom, talking about literacy in the classroom, I thought it might be really fun to zoom in on technology and motivation. Not only because motivation is a huge topic, something that's really important, but also because this is something that can translate if you are not, if you are not somebody who is as invested in reading, if you are thinking about middle school math, if you are, looking into other topics.
I didn't go to it. I don't know. Oh my gosh, they all have their face.
Likely going to be, an aspect of your classroom, no matter what your topic is. So I'll be talking about reading motivation today, but everything that I talk about can be easily kind of transferred into other subjects and motivation overall. So I thought we would start right out by kind of collaborating to think about what we already think about with technology in the classroom. What have you seen? What do you envision when you think about technology? One amazing thing about Hope is that you're in classrooms and you're learning from wonderful mentors. And so you get an opportunity to see what technology looks like in a lot of different places and a lot of different classrooms. You've seen technology used as students as well. And so I thought I would start today by quickly giving you an opportunity to just kind of throw some prior knowledge, kind of see what sticks, thinking about technology looks like in the classroom. So what I would love to do is I would love to start out by putting us into some breakout rooms just for a few minutes, because we're going to touch base on this again at the end of the presentation and putting together our new knowledge of technology in conversation with reading motivation. So if it is all right with the tech team, I am going to go ahead and excellent, thank you. I'll stop sharing for a moment. I'm going to go ahead and put you into some breakout rooms. Oh, actually, I don't think that I have permission to do that. I don't seem to have the option to put you into breakout rooms.
Susan, can you transfer Allie to be the host instead of the co-host? And then I think she might have that permission.
Sorry about that. In the meantime, I will put the link to the Jamboard. It's linked in the slides, but I understand you also may not have easy access to that right now. So I will put that link in the chat, so everyone can have access to the Jamboard. On this Jamboard, you are going to place an image or a sticky note that describes how you've seen technology used in classrooms or how you think about technology being used in classrooms. I don't appear to have the ability to put us into breakout rooms. So I apologize for that. I'm not sure.
You don't need to apologize. It's not you, it's me. I've never seen anybody in a breakout room.
Oh gosh. No, it is entire. I apologize. If we were in person, it'd be very easily to split you up into groups. And so I appreciate and just thank you all for being willing to be virtual with me today. While we're figuring this out, we can actually do this outside of breakout rooms. So if everyone can just take a moment, maybe click on this Jamboard link and add an image or a sticky note that demonstrates how you've seen technology used in classrooms. And while you're doing that, I'll also send you the link to the PowerPoint in case that is helpful for later. So the first link is for the Jamboard and the second link is for the slides. We'll be using those a little bit later. It looks like I might still be the co-host, so I don't know if switching to the host would be.
I have no idea. I'll just make you the host.
Okay, I won't abuse my power, I promise.
Hey, go for it. Go for it. There you go. That's what has to be done because, yeah, you're set now.
All right, let's see. And yes, I have access to breakout rooms. So perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Cherub. I appreciate it so much. So in the meantime, you have access to the Jamboard link. Let me pull that up. Excellent. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to put you into the breakout room still as we look at the, so that you have a chance to share what the sticky note or the image that you're putting up there means. And actually, it looks like we've really populated this. So maybe we'll hold off on the breakout rooms. Now that we've got that, smoothed out, I think this will be easy peasy from here on out. I will go ahead and share my screen so you all can see what you have come up with here. So as you can see, there are a lot of different applications that it seems like that we are using or seeing in classrooms, which is exciting. Take a look through some of these and some that maybe you are really familiar with, some that maybe you're not as familiar with. And we will have access to these. We will look at this later in breakout rooms. So you will have a chance if there are some that you're not familiar with to explore those a little bit. But here are some ways that we are seeing technology in classrooms, which is exciting. I see a lot of great things on here. So now that we've had a chance to kind of explore our prior knowledge, explore what we already know about technology in the classroom, I would love to shift the focus a little bit and talk to you about motivation, specifically to reading, but this can actually extrapolate really well into the other subjects as well. And then we'll bring that technology and that motivation piece back together. When we're talking about motivation or that ability to make kids want to learn, to engage them in what we're doing, I am going to focus especially on intrinsic motivation. And if you've had my class before, you've heard me touch on this because I think it's really important. There are two kinds of motivation. The first is intrinsic, which is kind of that inside motivation when students are doing something because they want to, because they like it, it's fun, they feel good at it. It's a choice they're making to engage in that activity that comes from inside. Extrinsic motivation tends to come from outside. So when we think about extrinsic motivation, we are thinking things like, ooh, I'm going to do this because I want to earn this, or I'm going to do this because I want to win, or because I feel like I have to, because the teacher told me to, because I might get in trouble if I don't do it. Those are two very different types of motivation. And I'm going to focus a lot today on intrinsic motivation, and I'll tell you why. When we think about what motivates us intrinsically, a lot of times intrinsic motivation or that desire to do it that comes from inside comes from curiosity, comes from wanting to know more. It comes from the adventure of problem solving. It comes from, being up for a challenge, feeling like you're belonging with your class. So it's a very positive emotion. Extrinsic motivation has its place, but it tends to be a little more outside of yourself and not so much in your control. So extrinsic motivation tends to come from incentives. The idea that you might be punished or you might have a negative experience if you don't engage in the activity. So when we think about why we would focus on intrinsic motivation, what makes intrinsic motivation the goal in classrooms? Research shows that intrinsic motivation leads to practice and engagement. So students choose to do more of the skills. So that means in terms of reading that children choose to read because they find it a positive experience. They want to practice it, they want to engage in it. Students who are intrinsically motivated actually spend 300% more time reading than students who have low intrinsic motivation. So students who want to do it because it's fun and they feel good at it and they enjoy it, spend 300% more time doing it. And we all know that the more a child reads, the better they come at those skills. You can never have enough. We always want students to read and continue reading, right? This is a great goal to have. Studies also show that there is if you rely on extrinsic motivation, over time, students tend to care a little less about those rewards and consequences. And so as they continue to age and they get into those middle school and those high school years, they start to decline in how much they achieve because they're not as motivated by the rewards. They're not as worried about the consequences. So they engage in that action a little less. They spend a little less time reading, and they tend to then have some declining achievement. Before I move on, the teacher in me has to stop and take a temperature check. Are there any questions on intrinsic or extrinsic motivation? I feel like everybody's feeling pretty good. Excellent. I should have said this in the beginning, but if you do have a question, please don't hesitate to yell out at me. I can see some of you at a time on the little side box on my screen. So please don't hesitate to just stop and yell out a question. I love to stop and talk about education, so don't hesitate. All right, so we're going to move into then how we support motivation and that intrinsic motivation, and then that will lead us into how we can do that with technology. There are 5 really important elements of supporting intrinsic motivation. And I always stop when I have this picture and say, those are some of my students that I love and adore, 2nd grade, from my last class before I started grad school. A lot of them are taller than me now, just throwing that out there. It's crazy. But I use this picture because this does demonstrate a few of these elements, and I'll explain what they're doing and why. But one of the main elements we see that support intrinsic motivation, and we'll talk about each of these a little bit more, is choice. Being allowed to choose what they're reading, being allowed to choose how they're engaging in the reading can be really big motivational factor for students. It gets them excited, it gets them ready to go, it gets them invested in that book because they chose it. They can choose things that align with their interests. They can choose books that they feel confident reading. For students who have a passion for graphic novels, they can go after that graphic novel, right? They can find that comic strip that they love and they're still reading. And we'll again dive into each of these a little more deeply, but another factor that increases intrinsic motivation is collaboration, the opportunity to work with other children. Students love to work together often, especially when there are roles and there are goals that they are sharing and trying to become a little bit more, that they're investing in together. Collaboration is a big motivational factor. Opportunities for success is another really important one. Students want to keep doing something when they feel like they can. It's really hard to want to do something when you are continually feeling like you're not doing well, or you're continually feeling like you're not succeeding. By giving students opportunities to succeed, by meeting them where they are and scaffolding them that little bit so that they get to feel success while they grow, you can really motivate students to want to read. Giving them tasks that feel very relevant or authentic, and we'll talk more about what that looks like, but giving them tasks where they're not necessarily reading to read. They're reading to learn something else. They're learning to answer a question. They're reading to create something. And last, making an active process from reading, giving students an opportunity to be not only hands-on, but minds-on, giving students opportunities to create things, to work together, to challenge themselves. We'll dig a little bit deeper into these, but I use this picture to the side here because what my students here are doing is they are taking one of the stories that they had in their basal reader in their class textbook that none of them found this particular curriculum very motivating as it stood. Just the way it was, they didn't find it to be super engaging. And so what they're doing is this group of students, they are working together on a choice project. they chose to read the story together and then use that to create. They wanted to create a little skit based on this story. So they're working together, there's collaboration. They're making a lot of choices, not only to make the play, but also that's what they wanted to do. But also they have to make choices about what to write, what to design for their little sets. This was a pretty big project. They were able to succeed because this was a project where they were able to make little steps along the way and create their play in the end. They felt that they were reading the story as part of a bigger thing, a bigger creation. So it felt very relevant. And then the play at the end was very active as well. So I use this picture, even though you can't entirely tell what's happening without the explanation. But I do think you can see at least how invested they all are. You know, they're very focused on what they're doing together. So this is where I'd like to go over these a little bit and start making this feel, tie in technology and make this feel a little more interactive. The question is, okay, so where does technology come in, right? We've talked about all the different technologies we see in classrooms, and we've talked about what motivates students, especially with reading. And what it turns out is that technology has so much potential for supporting intrinsic motivation. Technology has so many applications that can support choice and collaboration and all of those other elements. However, we have to be very purposeful with technology, which is something I'm sure you're all very aware of from these presentations, right? Technology can be used to connect us, but it can also be very isolating. And you can see this picture, you have three children all using technology, but not interacting in any way. They're kind of isolated from each other. It can be intentional, where you're using it for a real purpose, or it can be somewhat haphazard. I know I've heard the term technology as a babysitter in classrooms before. And of course, that's something that we want to avoid, right? That's that haphazard, that's everybody, take your tablet, take your computer, use an app that's educational. A story that I always share, and I apologize if you had my class last semester because you did hear this story. But one of my students, one of my groups of students, I joined the class I switched jobs and joined the class mid-year. And they had preloaded an app onto their tablets, and it was their favorite app. And I was really excited to find out what they were doing on this app they were so excited about. It was a math app. And during using this app, the app would give you a number of cents, like 79 cents. And you had to it had a rocket ship. And if you used the correct, combination of quarters and pennies and nickels, you could and you got exactly the 79 cents, you could make the rocket ship take off into space. If you went over 79 cents, the rocket ship exploded. Guess which was much more fun for the students? They loved to make that rocket ship explode. It was like the best day. It was the best moment of their day. So what happened was they'd start hitting the quarter button. And as soon as it got over 79, the rocket would explode. They would cheer. They would learn absolutely nothing about adding quarters or coins, other than if you hit the quarter button enough, you will eventually get past 79 cents. This is not a very intentional app, right? This is something that wasn't being used to really support motivation or learning of math. And again, students can use technology to investigate and spark curiosity, but it can also be very prescriptive. So we're going to talk about, this will be kind of the heart of the presentation. We're going to talk about how can technology be purposefully used to support motivation? How can we move past the exploding rocket ships, right? And make sure that we're using applications, or that we are using our technology in our classrooms in a way that can support motivation. So we're going to do a little bit of breakout rooms with this. I'm going to talk to you a little bit, and then we'll come back together. So what I've done is I've created a slide for each element of motivation. We have a slide for choice. And you can see over here, I have filled in, what does choice look like in classrooms? It can look like students exploring their interests, learning through their preferred methods, ways they love to learn. And it can look like showing what they know, assessment, in a way that they really love. I have had students before that have fine motor difficulties that make it really hard for them to write long paragraphs, but they had the most creative minds. And if you could allow them a way to share their stories verbally, they would light up and feel that they were writers. if they could use voice to text apps, which I know is technology, and I'm going on the other side of my slide. Again, I get excited. But if you give them those opportunities, they would just shine. But if they had to write it paper pencil every time, it became a battle because it was really hard on their fine motor skills. Not that we didn't want to work on those, but giving them those ways occasionally to show what they know in a way that enthuses them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to assign a small group to each of these slides. So one of you will be in the choice group. What I'd like you to do with your group is talk about what are some ways that technology can allow for choice or create opportunities for choice in classrooms. You can think specifically about your preferred grade, your preferred subject. If you are not as excited about reading, then you could talk about how you can use this with math. But in your group, you're going to come up with at least 3 to 5 ways that you can use technology to support choice. And then we'll share that out, and I'll add my voice to that as well. Another group will be assigned collaboration and technology. Collaboration looks like in classroom working together towards a shared goal. They can be working directly together. They could be using jigsaw or expert groups where some students are learning one thing and some students are learning another, and you're coming back together. That's actually what we're doing today with this activity, right? Some of you are going to do collaboration, some of you are going to do choice. It can also look like students taking roles on a shared project. Did anyone else really love in elementary school when they got picked to be the runner and they got to go get the materials? That was my favorite. I loved being the runner. So one group will talk about how you can use technology to support collaboration in your classroom. Another group will look at success, opportunities to feel successful in the classroom by meeting students right where they are and providing scaffolding, by aligning to your students' strengths, giving them opportunities to shine, by giving them feedback. When you give students feedback, they are able to then not only see what they did well, but see specifically what they can do to continue to learn and grow. And to make things mastery-based. Fantastic, you did this project, here's some feedback, now let's work on it and continue to make it great. Another group will talk about relevance and authenticity. So in classrooms, that might look like reading that is purposeful, not just reading for the sake of reading, but to accomplish a goal. And it can look like having opportunities to share, having an audience. And I'll talk to you about some opportunities that I've seen kids really take off with this when we come back. And another group will talk about active learning and technology, hands-on, minds-on learning that's inquiry-based, that allows the students to create something, that allows them to work together. Those are some things that we might think about as active learning. What I'd like to do is I'd like to assign each group one of these slides, and I'd like to give you 5 to 10 minutes to discuss with your group. Think of some things that you think are a great way to use technology to support that element of motivation, and then we'll come back together and look at each one as a whole. Are there any questions about the activity? Excellent. Please feel free to yell out. I can see some of you, you're shaking your head. You all should have access to the slides. I sent the link in the chat, and it's set to be able to edit, so you can add your thoughts right onto this slide. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can put you into those groups. All right, Dr. Chair, would you like to be in a group or would you like to be in the main room? A group? Okay, perfect. Well, group 1, you have a strong leader. You have Dr. Chair in your group, and you are going to be focusing on, we'll go right down the slide. So group 1, you are focusing on choice. So you will use that slide. Group 2, and you should be able to see what room you are on the top of your breakout room screen. However, I will go ahead and just kind of name, let's see. Oh, Chloe means you are in group 2. So if you're in Chloe's group, you are working on collaboration. Make sure I'm going down my slides in the right order here. Room 3, Jane, that's your room. You are going to be working on success. How can we create opportunities for success with technology? Room 4, oh, I see some new friends of mine from last semester that I didn't say hello to when you came in. So hi Allie, hi Lottie Brooke. Sorry, couldn't help it. Excited to see you. You are both in room 4. And you are going to be working on relevance or authenticity, creating authentic, relevant tasks for students with technology. My last group, the top name on there, Elizabeth Lamont. I'm going to call you out. If you are in Elizabeth's room, you are working on active learning with technology. If everyone is feeling good still, if not, please yell out. Otherwise, I am going to go ahead and open those rooms, and I will pop in and out to kind of keep track of the conversation as well. We'll take 5 to 10 minutes. All right, those should be open for you to join when ready. Welcome back, everyone. Let's make sure we've got most everybody rolling back in. Wonderful. Fear not, I meant to have you come back this time. So, you know, we're rolling in a good direction. All right. It looks like we have most everybody back. Wonderful. If you just rolled in, I was saying, you know, no fear. I did mean to call everybody back this time. It could have been worse. The button to close all the rooms is not far away from the button to just end the whole meeting. So, you know, could have been worse problem. But I really enjoyed hopping in and out of breakout rooms. I really enjoyed some of the things we came up with. I'm excited for, you know, your collective knowledge and ideas and thinking to become, you know, open to the group. So I'm going to share my slides. And while we only have, we're down into that kind of 20-minute mark, and I want to make sure we have time for our last activity and have time for questions. A lot of times, often I would ask groups to share out, but instead we'll look at these together as a whole group. I won't put anyone on the spot today, especially because if I was going to do that too, I would have warned you. But we'll start looking at choice and technology. And so you can see we have some really great resources here for you in terms of not only ideas, but also specific apps and things that you can use in your classroom. And so I did, because you all have access to the slides, and I know that the tech team is amazing and is going to have these on their website as well. Hopefully this will serve as something you can come back to and look at, oh, hey, I might be interested in using this program that is great at, you know, supporting choice in the classroom. So hopefully that will be helpful. So when we think about choice and technology, we have some really great options here. For those who aren't familiar with Epic, this was touched on earlier. Epic is a reading website where they can look, where students have choices for all kinds of books. There are options to choose what book you use. There are options to choose to read it yourself or have it read to you and you can follow along. There are graphic novels. There are books at all different levels. So Epic is a great way to support choice in the classroom. Using assignments or giving assignments with various technology mediums, letting students choose between using things like Google Slides, Prezi, writing tools. Elementary students love Google Slides. I don't know why, but they get very excited when they get to use Google Slides to show their knowledge. And especially when you think about giving them assignments where they get to create a presentation on something of their choice. I used to give my students opportunities to do, we would do an expert day for each student. And so each student got to choose just anything, one thing they felt passionately about, and create a presentation to share this with the class. Their reading and writing skills were being supported because they had to write and design the slides. They had to do a little research, but they could choose anything. We had students choosing everything from horseback riding to the history of football, back to growing roses. It was anything and everything, but they were using those reading skills with a lot of choice. Choice in how you assess students. Yeah, absolutely. Using online papers, different technologies. For example, allowing students to create a video instead of writing a paper is one way you can use technology to support choice. Using adaptive websites, absolutely. Study Island is a great example of that. And choices in how they are taking notes or following along. Speech to text, I love that that is in there because that is a great resource, especially for students who, it gives them some access to having notes if they are going to have trouble writing or keeping up in a paper pencil way. Collaboration. Yeah, breakout rooms using Zoom. Zoom allows for a lot of collaboration, which is something I hope you enjoyed today, getting to use those breakout rooms. You know, if you have me right now, you've done that a lot lately, and I appreciate you hanging in and doing them with me some more. Class Dojo is a class reward system where the students can work together to meet class goals in terms of behavior. Google Jamboards, we did that at the beginning of the session, right? It's a great way for students to put their knowledge together. I'm going to kind of just pull some highlights here. This group did an amazing job sharing very specific applications or things that you can use. So I want you to use this as a resource because it's fantastic. However, working on projects in groups using Google Slides, something where everyone can contribute to it, group video projects, and I love the idea of peer review, sharing your work with people using Google Docs or something like that so you can get feedback from your peers. If we come down, we look at success. Websites with various reading levels available so that students can choose books that they're going to feel very successful at. Applications that have immediate feedback to them. Kahoot is, I know, a favorite. Everyone, like kids love Kahoot, right? It gives them that feedback on their answers right away. Behavior Class Dojo, that was mentioned on the other slide, something where they can feel really good when they've accomplished a goal. And personalized feedback opportunities, that's exciting. I like that idea a lot, where we can give students opportunities to give each other feedback and work together to help each other succeed. That's an exciting one. Relevance and authenticity. So this group, I think I always feel like has a challenge, but once you think about all of the opportunities, I don't think we see this as often in classrooms, but once you tap into these opportunities, they're so huge and they're so exciting. Virtual field trips and guest speakers are a great way to connect your classroom to the outside world. Creating and sharing projects, fantastic. Making connections with students outside of the classroom. Oh, Professor Cherub, I love that you've included the Rosebud Indian Reservation here. What an amazing connection. I love that. These are ways that we can connect with places that we might otherwise not be able to. Presenting recordings, that takes the pressure off of students. Yeah, absolutely. Allowing students to record and practice and come up with something they feel really good about before it's put out to the world. And connecting classmates with out of class matters. Yeah, this is a great way to bring the outside world in and really connect what's happening in your classroom to neighbors, to the community, to the state, to the world. This is an exciting one, and I appreciate you bringing it up. Active learning, simulation-based learning, absolutely. Desmos and brilliant.org. So I am not as familiar with these. That's exciting. I hope you'll look into this because that's an exciting one. I am going to now. I'm very excited about that. Jamboard and Kahoot and iMovie. iMovie is a really exciting one because it gives students an opportunity. You can bring in a lot with that. You can bring in choice. They can choose what they're going to do their movie about. You can bring in the collaboration to make it and edit it. Authenticity, where you can share it with an audience. I mean, there's a lot here with iMovie. That's a great idea. I'll share with you a few things that I've seen schools do that fit into these different kinds of learning that I think are a great idea. When it comes to using technology to connect with the larger world, this is a great way to support motivation, and it can hit all of the different slides. You can have choice in choosing what you're going to do to connect. I'll share an activity. This actually happened with my own two children who decided to create a YouTube channel during the COVID-19 shutdown because they were worried that other students might not have access to libraries and classrooms. And they were really worried about children only having access to the books in their homes and maybe wanting access to others. They were feeling very stuck with their own books. They wanted to go to the library. They wanted their school libraries. And they created a YouTube read aloud channel. So they would read a book every day and they would share that out with on social media. On my social media, they don't have social media, but we would share that out. They even ended up being featured on the news, which was really exciting and really motivated them. This was something that felt really good to them. And my younger son, who is not as enthusiastic of a reader, suddenly became so much more confident, so much more fluent. So connecting to the outside world, you're choosing how you want to connect, maybe through reading aloud, maybe through a video pen pal kind of system. maybe through researching something from outside of the classroom, or talking to people who have a job that you might really enjoy or be interested in. Opportunities to work together come into those connections as well, especially if students do this in groups. Opportunities to succeed. Nothing is more exciting than having a project that you've worked so hard on and sharing it with people, with others. Again, relevance and authenticity, you're providing an audience, and active learning. There's a lot of minds-on to creating something. So one of my final tips would be anything you can do to connect, use technology to purposely connect students to the world outside of their classroom. It makes everything feel meaningful, especially those reading and writing activities. So we have 10 more minutes, and what I'd like to do for just a few of those minutes is I would love to put you into breakout rooms one more time and have you revisit the Jamboard. And what I'd like you to do on the Jamboard, if you look, we have this here. Think about, choose 3 to 5 of the sticky notes or the images that are on there. 3 to 5 things we've put on there, and think about, does this represent motivational technology use? Is this particular sticky note something that will motivate students? And if so, if not, why not? And if so, which element do you think it goes with? Is it going to provide choice, feelings of success, maybe multiple? But I'd love to revisit what we talked about at the beginning so that you can add your new knowledge into what you came in, that wonderful foundation you came in with. So I am going to mix up your breakout rooms. I am going to have you, work with a few new people, because I think that's one of the exciting things about the tech team presentations and things like this. We get to meet people and work with people from across the campus. So you are going to come back to this board for just 5 minutes. And with your group, on 3 to 5 of those sticky notes, think about, is this motivational? And if so, why? And if not, why not? Is this something I want to use in my classroom? Is this something I can take with me? We'll come back in about 5 minutes, and I'll just wrap up with any questions you might have. Literacy and motivation for a really long time. And so I have to make myself wrap it up here. Before I take any questions that you have, which I'd love to answer, I just left these kind of what I always call like the 3 eyes of motivation. And so this is something a checklist you can run yourself through when you're thinking about using technology in your classroom. You can think about, is technology supporting meaningful instruction? Is technology providing opportunities to integrate? And is this technology allowing my students to interact either with each other or the broader world? And this can help you keep that technology motivational and purposeful in your classroom. Any questions from anyone? And I'll stop my share so I can see you. Anything I can answer on anything that we talked about today, I'm happy to do so.
This isn't a question, it's a comment. And if you could bottle your enthusiasm and put it in a pill form, you would be a billionaire and all teachers would be happy and enthusiastic. This has been delightful. I really, really appreciated it. I like the format. We were so engaged and you had us right up to the last minute doing something. This was wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so kind, Dr. Tripp. Thank you. I appreciate that so much. And especially coming from you, because I always feel like I can go to you for like just the most positive energy all the time. And I love that about you and appreciate it so much. So thank you. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please never hesitate to reach out with any questions. You know me, I can talk about this forever. So never hesitate to reach out if I can answer any questions for you.
Well, if no one has any questions, we just want to thank you again for your entire presentation. It was so wonderful, and I think that we all have a lot that we could take from it. So just thank you so much. We are putting up the QR code, everyone, that you can use to send to your professors, show them you were here. But we also want to ask everyone to type in the chat before you go one thing, at least one thing that you took away from this presentation, you learned, maybe you want to use in your classroom or in your current placement, because I think there was just so many wonderful ideas that are going to be applicable to all of us. So if you have a moment to just type that out, we'd really appreciate that feedback as well. But thank you again, Dr. Whitford. It was wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun and I got to see so many wonderful students that I've gotten to teach and some that I haven't met yet. Also, my students from last semester, I got to see your whole face. We were in masks every day last semester, so this was wonderful.
Ooh, I see some class dojo. There's a lot of comments popping up. Awesome.
I'm going to unshare my screen for 1 second to stop the recording, but then I'll pull it back up. So if you haven't got the code yet, don't worry, it's coming back.